repeat presentation is my message in the year 2024. And it is entitled, my message is nothing other than this presentation, this repeat presentation, entitled Regional and Africa's Economic, Monetary, Trade, Infrastructure, and Political Integration. The strategy, the roadmap, the milestones, the deliverables. Doing that until we achieve total integration of Africa, but preempting crises on the way that befell the EU, that befell the UK under the Brexit arrangement. Okay? So as we do this, as we design a monetary union for the entire continent of Africa, and as we integrate in terms of trade, infrastructure, financial markets, deepening them and broadening them, we want to preempt a crisis that befell the UK, the Brexit crisis. We want in the future not to fall into that same trap. So I'll proceed to the outline. I'll first of all provide the political economic context. Everything has got a political economic context. You don't simply plunge into a monetary union, an African monetary union, without knowing, understanding the background to it. There is a an underlying political economic context of the African Union. That context is what I'm going to talk about. We shall also look at the benefits of joining an African Union, of joining an African Economic and Monetary Union, of even joining the mother EAC Monetary Union, of even joining the Commercial Monetary Union, which we already have. I'll talk about the costs because I'm going to look at the net benefits. So I have to look at the benefits of joining that monetary union and also look at the costs and then balance them out. See whether in the long run we are better off. Whether the net benefits are immense and beneficial to the Wananchi, to the people of Uganda, the people of East Africa, the people of Africa, and the entire world. Number two, I shall look at the preconditions, or what in economics we call the optimum currency area conditions, the prerequisites for a successful economic and monetary union. You don't simply plunge into a monetary union, you may crash. You have to do a lot of preparations. So we have to look at the economic, technical, statistical, financial market, macroeconomic preparedness, and institutional preparedness, and legal preparedness, and political preparedness, political will, before you enter a monetary union. So we shall look at that one under number two. In number three, we shall look at the lessons that we have learned from several regional economic communities, what we call the RECs. The RECs there is an abbreviation for Regional Economic Communities, and there are several lessons which we shall learn. What are those RECs? In Africa, we have got 8 approved RECs, Regional Economic Communities. We have got EAC, the East African Community. We have got COMESA, the Common Market for Eastern and Southern Africa. We have got SADC, Southern African Development Community. We have got IGAD, Intergovernmental Authority on Development. Okay? We have got ECOWAS, the Economic Commission, the Economic Commission for West African States. Okay? We have got CENSAD. That's a French acronym which you don't know. We have got CENSAD. Traversing some aspects, some countries in Central Africa and North Africa and across the Sahel region. We have got the one for the Francophone. It is called ECAS in Central Africa, the ECAS. It's a French acronym, I want to go through it. Then we have got the Arab Maghreb Union, AMU. Are those 8? If I've left one, just alert me. 8 approved AU regional economic communities, okay? But of course, we should also talk about the overlapping nature of some of those RECs. Some of them overlap. DRC, for instance, belongs to the EAC now, thanks to the DRC authorities. DRC belongs to COMESA, it belongs to SADC, it belongs to ECAS. So you can see that overlapping nature of the REX. But if we move into one direction, that won't be a problem at all, because we shall be moving towards the Continental African Union. Okay? The Continental African Economic and Monetary Union. And then finally, the political federation, or the political union. Okay? Number 4. No, before I go to number 4, we should also learn from the experience of the EU, the Economic and Monetary Union of the Europeans, of Europe. Okay? There are lessons to learn from the EMU. In fact, the ESC Monetary Union Protocol is modeled along the lines of the EMU of Europe. But let me hasten to add that the Europeans first studied our model. Remember, we had the ESC in the 60s, which collapsed in 1967. We were already there before the Europeans were there. So instead, the Europeans learned from us a lot, perfected it, and implemented it. One of the problems that we have in Africa is that we formulate good ideas, but they remain on paper. They are not implemented at all. People sign, the heads of state sign, ratify, our parliaments ratify, but when it comes to efficient and effective implementation, 0%. 100% in designing, 100% designing and articulating things very well, 0% in implementation. That's the African disease, which must fight. Once we decide to ratify a protocol, once we decide to ratify, we should go ahead and implement to the letter. We don't do that. But we shall come to all that. Number 4. Of course, I shall discuss with you how to design a very good roadmap for the continent in terms of macroeconomic convergence, financial market integration, trade integration, infrastructure development and integration and interconnectivity, financial market deepening and broadening and development, and of course putting our people out of poverty. We shall have that type of roadmap, and I'll tell you the steps that we take to design that type of appropriate roadmap. That roadmap will not only have the activities and the tasks, it will also have implementers, to have deliverables, to have milestones, okay? And to also be costed. I don't want people to have good ideas, formulate them, but fail to finance them to the end. Because we want people must have the must reap the fruits of your integration, of your monetary union, of your economic monetary union and a monetary union, of your political integration. They must reap the benefits. What the use of going to a monetary union which is not going to benefit the people, the wananchi, yourselves, and posterity, future generations. Okay? In number 5, I shall map out a strategic way forward. I shall tell you what actually works, what has worked elsewhere, what is working now, and what's not working now. But I will use that knowledge and experience to define appropriate integration stages, the phases, and the approach. We shall then look at the strategic plan and an actual roadmap with clear milestones and deliverables and tasks, and the budget for it, an adequate budget to fulfill that mandate. Of course, I shall also talk about the existing regional monetary institutes that are precursors for the African Central Bank, for the regional central bank. You see, before you plunge into a central bank or a monetary union, you must have a vehicle to articulate and prepare you in terms of the statistical preparedness, in terms of technical preparedness, in terms of policy articulation and preparedness, institutional preparedness, legal preparedness, and also mobilization of the people of Uganda, of the ESC, of Africa, and other RECs to get ready to warm up and understand the benefits of what is going to come from the monetary union, from the political integration. Of course, there is an existing monetary institute, the Commercial Monetary Institute, which is headquartered in Nairobi. I helped design it. I was a consultant for Commercial in 2006, 2008, 2007, and part of 2008. So the Commercial Monetary Institute is up and running, and the precursor for the Commercial Central Bank, the central bank for the entire Commercial region. That Commercial Monetary Institute is already there working. It's up and running. It has been up and running since 2010. I helped design it. Okay? I made a presentation to the governors of the central banks of the Commercial in Lusaka, in Madagascar, in Tripoli, in Cairo. So it was approved right from all those stages, and ultimately by the Assembly of the Heads of State, okay, for the region. And we want to do the same thing for the entire African region, not only for COMESA or EAC, but for the entire African region. And I'm part and parcel of that process. 2 years I was resident in Abuja to undertake that. And we are now going to go through the nitty-gritty of what we did. First of all, the political economic context. Some of you may have come across what they call the Abuja Treaty of 1994. And then its ratification in Cotonou in 1991, then its ratification in Cotonou in 1994. Then some of you must have heard about the African Union Constitutive Act for Pan-African financial institutions of the African Central Bank, the African Monetary Fund, and the African Investment Bank. Briefly, the African Central Bank is like the IMF of Africa. Okay? Even the African Monetary Fund is the acronym for the IMF of Africa. The SCB is the Central Bank for Africa. Okay? The AIF, rather the AMF, African Monetary Fund, is just like that one for the world, the IMF. But you know, Africans cannot always fulfill and satisfy their interests if they have something, an institution of their own they can lean on, that they can bank on. You can't rely on the Musinguzi institutions to bail you out. You cannot rely on yourself. So the AU heads of state were very wise enough to set up those 3 Pan-African financial institutions. The African Central Bank, headquartered in Abuja, the African Investment Bank, headquartered in Tripoli, and the African Monetary Fund, headquartered in Yaoundé, Cameroon. And the biggest drivers of that process were the former president of Nigeria, Obasanjo, the late president of Libya, Colonel Muammar Gaddafi, the former president of South Africa, Thabo Mbeki. Okay? At the continental level. At the EC level, of course, you know our president. President Yoweri Kaguta Tiwaburwa Museveni has been most instrumental in EAC integration and in COMESA integration. Remember, even the COMESA EAC SADC tripartite arrangement and agreement was signed in Kampala here, under the auspices, under the leadership of our own president. That the 3 RECs, COMESA, EAC, and SADC, can harmonize activities, policies, common external tariffs, and move as a bloc, so that other RECs can emulate us, also form tripartite RECs, and once the tripartite RECs and our REC combine, then it is easier to integrate the entire African continent. We shall go through that process. Fiscal discipline, political integration, I've already told you about the federation versus the confederation. These are the steps. The first cooperate. Okay? MPH, meritocracy, pragmatism, and honesty. Tureka kubebi ruku. Waura? Auma sijire atebandizire. Uba sijire atebandizire. Mutaba babifandimu. Waura, mutaba babifandimu. Mutaba chitandugaho mutaba don't be bifandimu, don't mean chitandugaho. Okay, help your own African race, nobody will help it. Every other race is helping itself except you, African race. Inculcate efficient and effective leadership and management qualities among yourselves. Let it become part of your culture. Okay? You change your mindset from what use can I use? Enjauro. Change your mindset from Enjauro to efficient and effective public service delivery. And it starts with all of us. That's what leadership is about. Clean leadership. That's what good governance is about. All these good things that I'm talking about cannot be good unless we have got MPH as part of our culture. M, meritocracy. P, pragmatism. H, honesty. Okay? For the African Central Bank, the African single currency, and indeed the African Monetary Union, with all the support structures. Here, we begin with the African Monetary Institute, doing as a front runner, headquartered in Abuja. Instead, the AU ministers of the economy, of finance, regional integration, and trade, and the central bank governors, under the Association of African Central Bankers Association, ACB, jointly with the African Union Commission, made recommendations to the AU Assembly and Heads of State Summit, and in 2016 in Addis it was approved. The African Monetary Institute was approved to be funded by the African Union Commission and out of the African Union Commission budget. But as I told you, you cannot have a single currency at the African Central Bank without first of all addressing the infrastructure problem. So in 2017, it had been envisaged to have a free trade area, but supported by infrastructure development under PIDA. PIDA, I told you, was the program for infrastructure development in Africa, buttressed by the Yamoussoukro Airways Declaration. PIDA, Program for Investment in the Development of Infrastructure for Africa, PIDA, buttressed by Yamoussoukro Declaration for Airways Liberalization and Harmonization. As you know very well, this free trade area did not take place until, was not launched until 2021 as the African Continental Free Trade Area. It had actually been programmed even to be launched earlier than 2021, but COVID delayed it. Okay? But it's now up and running and is located in Accra, Ghana. In 2019, we had programmed that we have an African Customs Union, but we are still under the CFTA, so we are behind schedule. In 2023, we had a program that the regional economic communities set up regional central banks. Like in the case of the ESC, by now we would have had the East African Central Bank. And the East African Central Bank and the East African single currency is supposed to be in place a year from now, 2024. That is at the regional level. But at the continental level, these regional central banks were supposed to have been set up in 2021 and the African Common Market in 2023. Remember, those are the stages. Then we would move in 2028 to the African Economic, Monetary and Fiscal Union and the Banking Union. We would have the African Central Bank and we have the African Single Currency. Now, 2028 is a date that is derived from the Abuja Treaty. The Abuja Treaty, 1991, ratified in Cotonou in 1994, has an inbuilt 6-year grace period after 2028. In other words, from 2028 to 2034, you are supposed to do all the groundwork in terms of preparing the continent for the African single currency. So it's a first period. So in reality, 2028 is the date that is in the Abuja Treaty, then plus the 6 years grace period, bringing the culmination into the African Monetary Union in 2034. Okay? That is the roadmap, and I'll give you the details of the roadmap. This is a result of the study that I was probably part of. I was part of the African Union Commission, African Central Bank Steering Committee that jointly mapped out this strategy, which was eventually approved, and worked together with the AACB, the Association of African Central Bank Governors. But for us at the African Union Commission, African Central Bank Steering Committee, were the members and the consultants. So we were residents. The consultants, including me, active me, were based in, were actually resident in Abuja for that 2-year period. Okay? Thanks to the AUC and thanks to the Central Bank of Nigeria. And thanks, of course, to the Central Bank governors under the auspices of the Association of African Central Banks, AACB. But there are challenges to this process. There are very many challenges along this process. The first challenge is weak political commitment. And that we have already seen. As an example, you see the EAC heads of state approved and actually signed the AAC Monetary Union on November 30th, 2013. Should have taken place in 2012, December. It was delayed by 1 year. The date shifted. But since 2013, November, according to the revised roadmap, the EAC is supposed to launch the East African Monetary Institute to do the donkey technical work ahead of the launch of the African Central Bank in 2024. 3 institutions should have been set up by now. 1, the East African Monetary Institute should have been set up. The EAC Surveillance and Monitoring Commission should have been set up. And the EAC Financial Services Commission should also have been set up, as well as the EAC Statistics Commission or Statistics Bureau should have been set up by now, putting in place the policy, the technical, the institutional, and the legal framework under which the ACB would naturally be established. Those were the steps before the African Central Bank. And those are also the similar steps for the African Central Bank. You do not simply jump into the African Central Bank or the African Monetary Union without doing that important homework. And the protocol was ratified by the parliaments of the partner states and by the regional parliament. And up to now, there is no adequate budget for it. Yet the African continent is rich in minerals, rare earth, and the high value minerals that propel the industries of the West and the defense industries of the West. How come such a rich continent cannot finance its own Pan-African institutions and bodies? So, point number 1, weak political commitment, and weak and red tape by the technocrats, by the bureaucrats. Number 2, we have got overlapping memberships. I gave an example of the DRC belonging to the ESC as of now. DRC joined the ESC. It's a member of COMESA, it's a member of ECAS, it's a member of SADC. Okay? That overlapping membership will not be a problem if we move together, if we form these tripartite RECs and merged at the continental level and formed a continental African Economic and Monetary Union. That will not be a problem. Because even these common external tariffs at the common market level will be harmonized. So that will not be a problem. Overlapping membership will not be a problem at all. If we have the similar frameworks and we are moving in tandem. Our treaties so far do not allow variable geometry, where laggards can be left behind and those who are willing and ready move forward. Okay? It is by consensus under the ESA arrangement. Decisions are taken by consensus. So even those who have shown weak political commitment now cannot address that issue. But if we allow the variable geometry, so that those who are ready move on, those who are not ready, they can catch up with us along the way. Okay, when they are ready. Okay, those are the two approaches: consensus or variable geometry. Number 3, as I've told you before, if you look at country performances within Africa, recent empirical studies have shown that the parameters, the primary criteria and the secondary criteria that we have set for ourselves have not all been met. Now, and to have a monetary union, most of the preconditions need to be met. You do not have to satisfy all the preconditions, but most of them should be met, so that you reduce disharmonies in the policies, so that a policy taken does not, in one state, does not cause contagion in another state, does not affect another state, that problems do not move from one country and spill over and snowball to another country. You want the structures to be, you need macroeconomic convergence, you need financial market integration, you need to have reduced all those economic disharmonies. The need for macroeconomic convergence before monetary union. But of course, you do not have to satisfy all the conditions. In fact, the Francophone countries, like in MOA, that's the Francophone countries, for them they had a single currency, but that single currency, of course, was set up at a time when actually the economies were in its harmony. So there was a cost, and the currency became overvalued, and the export competitiveness suffered. That's why the Francophone countries are now waking up to moving away from the French franc as their single currency and adopt what we have proposed. They are part of the ECOWAS. The WAMUZ has been behind the schedule, but working together with the Anglophone WAMUZ, working together with the MOA, the Francophone part. Okay? With MOA, that's the Francophone part. They will work towards moving together under the ECOWAS arrangement. The financial systems are still narrow, shallow, and underdeveloped. And so are the payment system. The payment systems are still unstable and inefficient. But there is light at the end of the tunnel. I've talked about the reps for the COMESA, the regional payment and settlement system. And I'm happy I was part of that study that reinvigorated the use of the COMESA payments and settlement system. I undertook that study. It was supervised by His Excellency, the Secretary General of COMESA, Mr. Seniso Ngwenya. But before that one, a lot of homework had been done with the previous COMESA Secretary General, His Excellency Erastus Mwencha, who later on became, who was the COMESA Secretary General then, but later on became the Deputy Chairperson of the African Union Commission. So I've been privileged to be a consultant under both bosses in the COMESA and again under the African Union Commission. Most of the study that we undertook actually were blessed by the governors when I was in the central bank, and later on by the African Union Commission itself as the continental body. And the Central Bank of Nigeria was the host. It provided it signed the headquarters agreement, the host agreement, with the African Central Bank Steering Committee office in Abuja, where I was resident for 2 years, as I said. Commodities are still undiverse. If you look at all our commodities, we are still, I told you that, high value exports. Trade integration is still slow. As I told you, we trade mostly with other countries, the rest of the world, but not among ourselves. Commerce at one time was on at 7%. 7% of intra-African trade. 7%. The whole continent only 15%. 85% is trading with the rest of the world. Europe, USA, Asia, the rest of the world. Not with Africans, not with African countries among themselves. There is so mobility factor of production. Can you move freely? Can you, without visas, within the EAC? Yes, we now have an EAC passport. We even now have an African Union passport. So yes, mobility of people, yes. But mobility of capital, mobility of labor, residence. I mean, can you set up residence wherever you want? Can you buy land wherever you want? Land is still a sensitive issue. Land is still under the jurisdiction of each part of the state, and that was allowed. Okay? We do not want the Tanzanians thinking that the Kenyans could come and swamp them, or we do not want Uganda thinking that Kenyans who have got a higher industrial base can come and swamp us. We want people to be at harmony with each other. Be prosperous, but be at harmony. So the land issue, sensitive as it is, was left to the individual partner states, which was a good thing. Okay? Because that would have created friction. Okay? Because those with money, with big pockets, would have swamped the whole of the AC. Okay? And the Wananchi would have lost out. But we are doing this for the net benefits of all the Wananchi. In Mother Uganda, in Mother EAC, in Mother Comesa, in Mother Comesa EAC, SADC tripartite, in all the African relics and the whole continent of Africa. I've already declared the poor state of fiscal infrastructure, but you can see we are making inroads. We are making. You remember now we are improving roads between us and the DRC. Okay? Okay, that road infrastructure is being improved. The Lake Victoria Authority is also working to interconnect all of us in the ESC. Okay? There is the Northern Corridor route, then there is the SGR, the SGR, the railway system, okay, to connect us. And of course to link, it's going to be linked to Kampala, to Entebbe, to Uganda. And so we're also linking up with South Sudan, okay. There's also the Northern Corridor. So, and of course between us and Tanzania, there's the ESC crude oil pipeline. Okay, that's good news, very good news. Okay, and we're banking on that one. And you, Devi, and Pomoza, who is working with that Albert and Grabin important company, which I don't want to mention, you can mention it. You have mentioned it already for them. We are banking on you. And that Kabul International Airport in Hoima is a plus. Okay? So in terms of infrastructure, we are not doing badly. Things are moving. But if every partner state can link and do their part, and we connect East Africa to Central Africa and Central Africa to West Africa, so that goods can now flow, goods and investments and services can now flow easily, east, west, south, from Khartoum, from Cape Town to Cairo, okay, from Djibouti to Monrovia, and then you connect with the Middle East, you connect with Europe, you connect with the USA through the Atlantic, you connect with Asia through the Indian Ocean and the Pacific Ocean. Then you can be a part to reckon with as an African continental free trade area whose benefits are immense. There are so many other things I want to go to discuss, but I won't, for the sake of time, not to go through all of them. I talked about political commitment, but we have made some progress even on political commitment. For instance, we have ministers responsible for the EAC affairs. We have Miaka, and the first deputy prime minister, who was the former speaker of Uganda Parliament, is in charge of, is the minister for East African Affairs, Miaka. And she's the one linking us up with the other EAC partner states to prepare these efforts. Okay? You working with her, all of us working with her, all of us working with the President of Uganda to integrate not only the EAC but also COMESA and the entire African continent, beginning with our neighbors. You understand? So, the Ministry is for Respect for Integration and Work Affairs, that is in place. For us, in the EAC, those exist. How about the inclusion of regional and continental decision making, to our national legislation? Is it happening? Are we domesticating continental and regional decisions into our national legislations and implementing them? Are we? That's what they call the approximation of laws. The decisions and the laws that we enact at the regional and the continental African level, do we domesticate them here? Do we own and implement them here? The answer is yes and no. We have got a long way to go. Those laws need to be domesticated here. Well, there's a good example. The EAC Monetary Union, each partner states in the EAC, the heads of state had signed, they ratified, the EALA approved. I keep on talking about action. What we lack in Africa is action. Not this, we all the time engage these big sweet words. Rugabo, Mudomo. We must end Mudomo. We must leave the talk. We must walk and leave the talk. Okay? I talked about Big Bang, like the case of East Germany and West Germany merging to Germany and propelling the economy. They are the best economy in Europe, Germany. I advocate not for a Big Bang. We advocated and recommend, and the AU heads of state approved a stage-by-stage integration process from one state to another, like from the FTA, free trade area, to the customs union, from the customs union to the common market, from the common market to the monetary union, and ultimately political federation or confederation. Okay? The only problem that process is slow. That process has been slow. So it can be fast-tracked. So there is rationale for fast-tracking a slow snail process. Okay? We can fast-track it. We can fast-track the implementation of the macroeconomic convergence criteria. We can fast-track that. Okay? Nothing stops us, but what we need is political commitment from the top and the bureaucratic red tape to be removed, and for the non-tariff barriers to be minimized and phased out and eliminated completely. Okay? And solve some other problems and prepare ourselves. Think long term, be visionary, be transformational in our activities. Now, the Association of Central Banks, ACB, African Monetary Cooperation Program, MCP, timeline of 2021 has now been shifted to harmonize with the Abuja Treaty according to our joint study. So instead of launching the African single currency in 2021, which was not feasible, as you know, now we are in 2023, the plan, the decision is to launch it, to have the African single currency, African Monetary Union, African Central Bank, and the common monetary exchange policy framework in 2028 and give it 6 years up to 2034 to launch these Pan-African financial institutions and bodies support them, while buttressing infrastructure development, PIDA. Some of you are asking, how did the Brexit debate, how does the Brexit debate affect our integration momentum? Of course, Brexit had a lot of costs for UK. This is the UK which was already enjoying a larger EU market. Now it pulls out from the larger market and cocoons itself. How can you run away from a bigger market offering immense opportunities in the trade, in investment, in the policy harmonization, and in solidarity, and you cocoon yourself because of narrower interests of wanting to defend your own sovereignty, when that sovereignty had already been shared at the EU level? Suddenly, part of your sovereignty, each partner states, there were 28 partner states, now there are 27 in the European and Monetary Union. UK pulled out. When they were 28, they were enjoying a lot of immense benefits. Now they pull out, and you know how they have suffered. There have been debate after debate, political fallouts, prime minister after prime minister falling out. Cameroon had started integrating Europe. David Cameron. Now the diehards who wanted to pull out of Europe, of EU, brought him down. But then for Theresa May, who had also skillfully wanted to provide a bridge between the UK and EU, and she had worked out a nice arrangement. EU brought her down, Theresa May. Next in line was Boris Johnson. You know what happened to him? Now there is a great economist in charge of UK, the Prime Minister, the current Prime Minister, Sunak. Sunak. He is the Prime Minister of Europe, and you can see for him, he's treating carefully because he knows the benefits of being in a larger market. He knows the solidarity that comes from a larger market, but he's also not insensitive to domestic political sensitivities in his country. So he's balancing the two without rocking the boat of integration to the bigger market and enjoying those benefits. We shall wait to see. I did a survey of the repercussions of Brexit, not only in the UK but on the European market, the African continent, and the rest of the world. That survey was undertaken in 2016. You can Google chapter 1 in Musinguzi 2016. I undertook a survey about ways of resolving the most recent challenges of Brexit from EU. I called it Brexit trumps Remain. Brexit are those who are leaving Europe, and Remain are those who want to remain in Europe. Even now, there's strong force for the UK to go back to the EU. But the political economic sensitivities of the Conservative Party are playing out. But I want to predict that sooner than later, UK will find itself back to where it should be in Europe, with the EU, with the EU Economic and Monetary Union, okay? Where it was benefiting a lot. Now, how does that affect us? Lo and behold, we now have our AFCFTA, the African Continental Free Trade Area, which is bigger than their market, which is bigger than NAFTA, which is bigger than even BRICS, which is even bigger than ASEAN for the Asians. ASEAN. Okay? You have heard about ASEAN. Okay? For the Asia. Now, If you do not take advantage of CFTA, mutunaji. If you don't take advantage of FCFTA, babanaje, batunaje, there is no work also, there is no excuse anymore. You have a bigger market to reap benefits from. Now, what is this strategic way forward that I keep on talking about? I've shown you the chart. Now, what is this strategic way forward? In March to December 2014, the policy and decision-making process stage was the creation of the African Monetary Institute, but it didn't happen. As I told you, it happened in 2016. But again, it's not yet operationalized, the African Monetary Institute. From 2015-2017, we have stage 2. Under stage 2, which lasts 3 years, 15, 16, and 17, we are supposed to have an effective free trade area at the REC level, effective tripartite free trade area, preparations for effective REC customs unions, and strengthening macroeconomic convergence and broadening and deepening and developing financial integration, as well as an industrialization pillar and a market integration pillar. The program for infrastructure development for Africa, in Africa, PIDA, phase 1 is from 2010 to 2030, so that is still running. That's why I'm saying that there is hope, there is light at the end of the tunnel. We are still developing our infrastructure, improving interconnectivity. Then overlapping REC memberships, where I want each country to belong to one REC, that was reviewed, and a study that was commissioned by the African Union Commission. And as I told you, if we all moved in tandem as RECs and as tripartite RECs and we harmonize, then that overlapping membership we shall eventually find ourselves into the continental Africa together, the tripartite RECs merging and with the common policies. So that won't be a problem as we go forward. Then stage 3 is 2018 to 22. Under that stage, which lasts 5 years, we are supposed to have an effective customs union. We are supposed to have deepened macroeconomic convergence, real macroeconomic convergence, and nominal macroeconomic convergence, and deep and broad and developed financial market integration. We are supposed to have efficient and stable payment system platforms. And the program, PIDA, is supposed first is supposed to be continued, and they are also supposed to have an establishment of the FTA. Now, this has happened. In 2021, the Grand FTA, which is the African Continental Free Trade Area, was launched, and that is a plus. It's a win-win-win. You can have wins up to 53 AU countries. Are they 54 now? It's a win-win for each country in the AU, 53 or 54 countries. Okay? That is African Continental Free Trade Area, AFCFTA. Don't forget that. Don't forget that acronym. Then in the last stage, well, not the last stage as such, it's another one. From 2020 to 2028, we are supposed to have effective REC common markets. I'm using the word effective. I don't want things which are signed on paper and are not implemented. So that's why I'm using the word effective. The ones which are effective. We are supposed to have further strengthening of macroeconomic convergence and further deepening in the financial integration. We are supposed payment and settlement systems at sub-regional levels, and also have regional stock exchanges where you can cross-list companies and shares and float shares. We are supposed to have created regional economic community central banks, like the South African Central Bank, and the regional currency like South African currency, whatever name it is going to be called. And we are supposed to have RECs, fiscal and banking unions. It's not a matter of having monetary unions, it's also important to have fiscal and banking unions by 2028. And indeed, by 2030, when the phase 3 of the PIDA is going to be over, we should have had thorough interconnectivity and infrastructure that can connect us from east to west, south to north, central, and all the poles of Africa, all the corners of Africa, and connect us with Europe, with Atlantic, transatlantic, with Asia, and then that's when we know we are doing well. And finally, between 2028 and 2034, you remember the 6 years grace period. From 2028 plus 6 years grace period is 2034. By 2034, this is what you must be able to see. These are the expectations. An African common market, an effective continental economic and monetary union, as well as continental fiscal and banking unions, all culminating in the African Central Bank and African single currency. We pray to God. And infrastructure is supposed to be now the first world infrastructure, not the banana economy infrastructure in Africa. First class infrastructure. Remember Lee Kuan Yew's story? From third world to first world. If you did it, why can't we do it? The other day you were saying we eat the same food. You were talking about me at my family reunion, remembering my parents. Dave Sempozo was saying, Dr. Polycarp Musinguzi, we ate the same food with him. We went to the same church. We went to the same schools. Of course, we were much younger, we were not even born. We went to the same universities in Uganda, in the UK, and the USA. What makes him different from us? If you can do it, we young people can also do it. Yes, you can. Okay? Now, I will not go through all these stages because those stages have been finalized into the 5 stages. That looks at the task, then the activities, the deliverable, the start date, the final date, the completion date, actually even the budget, and the people taking responsibility. Okay? The start date was March 14th to December 2014 to establish the African Monetary Institute. That did not happen. But in 2016, at the AU summit, at CAMEF of Ministers for the Economy, Finance, Regional Integration and Trade, and which was also attended by the UN ECA, UN Economic Commission for Africa, and it was also attended by the UN ECOSOC, the UN Economic Commission for the UN Economic and Social Council, and of course our AU heads of state in that summit. All those approved the work that we undertook as the AUC, as the Joint African Union Commission, stroke African Association of African Central Banks, AACB, joint study. That joint study was approved up to the top level. So there's no work whatsoever anymore. There's no excuse that you cannot implement efficiently and effectively what has already been approved by our bosses at the top. You must have what the success story. The success story, that magic bullet is MPH. Meritocracy, pragmatism, honesty, and not dilly-dallying, which we are doing. Let me go through what has actually happened. In the EAC, December 2012 had been designated to be the launch of the EAC Monetary Union. A monetary union is just 3 things. A monetary union is you have a supranational central bank for the region, you have a common monetary and exchange rate policy framework, then you also have a single currency for that region. That's what they call a monetary union. So we're supposed to have a monetary union in the EAC by December 2012. Did not happen. The date was shifted by 1 year. Lo and behold, the heads of state signed the monetary union protocol in November 30th, 2013. That was a tick, a big tick, and the plus for heads of state. Okay? But look at Uamuzi. WAMU is the West African Monetary Zone, comprising Nigeria, Ghana as the big brothers, and quite a number of others which are Anglophone-speaking countries in that region. They were supposed to have a monetary union. They were supposed to have a monetary union and a single currency and their own central bank for that region and monetary union. January 2015. The date has been shifting since then. They don't have one yet. In the ECOWAS, Economic Commission for West African States, Economic Committee for West African States, they were supposed to have one in December 2015. January for the Francophone, ECOWAS combining the Francophone and the Anglophone and the Francophone, December 2015. It didn't happen. Up to now, we don't know when they are going to converge into that. SADC, they were more ambitious than everybody. They wanted to have it in 2016. You can't say anything about what SADC is now doing about it. It didn't happen. And the dates are not even known. COMESA, as I told you, 2018, you can see it was ambitious also. It didn't take place and the date is not known. The Association of African Central Banks African Monetary Cooperation Program, which I told you about, 2021, it didn't happen. Instead, they were smart enough to shift it to 2034. But I think they were smart enough. Okay? They were smart enough. And there was a lot of politics involved as well. There are some people who don't want to be in a monetary union. They want, you know the Queen of England? The late Queen of England. One of the reasons why UK did not want to remain in the EU is that they wanted their own sovereignty and their own currency with the face, with the picture of the Queen on their currency. UK wanted to preserve that, their own sovereignty. But sovereignty can be shared under a monetary union. You share, you surrender some of it for the good of everybody, for a wider market, a more peaceful bride, the bigger market for goods and services, and for solidarity. I will give you the reasons. Then, of course, as I told you, I was resident in Abuja. I was part of this study, the Joint African Union Commission Association of African Central Bank study, and we had a joint study group, and we delivered the following. One, we delivered a continental roadmap with the clear milestones. At least the African Central Bank Steering Committee office was set up in Abuja, and I was there. Okay, so that was set up. You will ask me, has it transitioned into a fully-fledged, well-financed, well-budgeted for African Central Bank? Do you have Bank of Uganda now for the entire Africa that is up and running? Not yet. And I'll tell you why. Of course, in your ESC, this is what the heads of state agreed upon and implemented, actually. You remember we got the ESC Customs Union. That was launched in 2004. A big thing. We have an up and running ESC Customs Union. Don't ask me other questions. There are non-tariff barriers there. There are also non-tariff barriers within that Customs Union. We have an ESC common market already. It was set up in November 20th, 2009. That's a very big tick for the ESC heads of state. Okay? And for ourselves. We already have, as I have told you already, we have already have an ESC monetary union protocol. Not the union itself, not the monetary union itself, but the protocol. US signed and certified. And you know, our president is passionate about the ESC political federation. Now ESC political confederation. A confederation is more loose than a federation. This is a higher degree of political unity, political integration. A confederation is a bit loose. You know the purpose behind it. Heads of state do not want to, You know, if you have one head of state for the EAC, what happens to other EAC heads of state? What do they become? What do they become? But if there is a rotating presidency, like in the EU, each EAC head of state will have a turn to lead the EAC to another one. So all of you will be heads of state of the EAC. You want to lose your power, you want to lose your image, you will also be a person to reckon with. So a confederation is a loose federation allowing for rotating presidency. Okay? And by the way, there are so many examples of rotating presidencies. The Swiss have a rotating presidency based on each canton, each district, each region. They share power, and so each one has got a turn to govern, to lead, and provide his vision in that region. So you can have a rotating presidency under the EAC Confederation, which is slightly short of an EAC Federation, where you have got one president for the entire EAC. That's the chart for the SADC, and I want to go through it. COMESA had several stages. Stage 1 comprised the consolidation of the existing instruments of monetary cooperation. And it was running from 1992 to 1996, and that stage was achieved. But of course, there are some aspects of macroeconomic convergence that have not been totally achieved. Like we could converge on inflation, but we have not converged on the fiscal deficit to GDP ratios. That's a bit of a difficulty. We could converge on the month of import cover of foreign exchange reserves. We can converge on that one, but we are not converged on, say, high and buoyant real GDP growth rates. So we have two types of criteria. We have got what we call the primary criteria. That's the achievement of single-digit inflation consistently, the meeting of the fiscal deficit to GDP ratios, and therefore also debt sustainability in the medium and long term. The abolition of central bank financing of a fiscal deficit. The central banks must not be sent to finance the fiscal deficit of governments. So that's one of the primary criteria for macroeconomic convergence. Okay? But we also have another set of secondary criteria that are important, but are not as important, as core as the primary set. Okay? So those are the stages for COMESA. I won't go through all of them. I'll go back to the Abuja Treaty. The Abuja Treaty in 1991 has the following provisions. 1. The regional economic communities are the major building blocks for the entire continent. You do not simply get a continent to a monetary union. You begin with the sub-regions. Okay? EAC, COMESA, SADC, ECOWAS, all those 8 RECs. Then when they begin integrating as a tripartite and others follow, then they integrate the whole continent. So we recognize the RECs as serious and important building blocks for the whole continent before we achieve continental integration, whether it is economic, whether it is monetary, whether it is fiscal, whether it is banking, whether it is infrastructure, whether it is market integration or real trade integration. We don't do a big bang for the continent, that you force a whole continent to a big bang that you must integrate by force. No. You move systematically in stages, building on the regional blocks. Okay? Because you don't want a big bang is costly. Those of you who remember the unification of Eastern Europe and East Germany and West Germany, that was a big bang. And that was a political decision which Germany decided to take. And they liked it. It worked for them. But it cost West Germany. Because Eastern Germany was not at par with West Germany in terms of economic development. They were at different stages. Okay, East Germany also had a beautiful infrastructure. But the macroeconomics of East Germany was socialist, was planned, central planning, okay? Whereas that one of West Germany was liberal, was market-based. Okay? Liberal policies. So to get the two together was costly because West Germany had financed the cost of East Germany. And the exchange rate was changed 1-to-1. Can you imagine? The German mark exchanged 1-to-1 with the East German mark. Yet the economies were distinctly different. That is the cost. So you don't want to suffer such a cost unless you have got very big pockets. And the political will there is that on top. Okay? The political economy there was such that they agreed, the Germans agreed that enough is enough, let's now unite, let's integrate. Forget the wars, forget the bad history behind, let's unite. And for them, they went for the Big Bang approach. Today, we are one Germany. Okay? Okay? But I advocate for a gradualist, step-by-step approach. One that's not slow again, but one that is fast-tracked. Because if it's on a gradual and it's not fast-tracked, there is a tendency for complacency, there is a tendency to move at snail's speed, and you may not reach where you want to be, where I want to reach, the Continental Monetary Union. Okay? This is what I've been talking about. That if the EAC and the COMESA and SADC now are in a tripartite arrangement, and the Arab Maghreb Union, AMU, and the IGAD can join and then form a grand free trade area. And the good news is that African Continental Free Trade Area is now up and running. We now have the African Continental Free Trade Area, the AFCFTA. It's now up and running, and goods and services can now move freely. They are supposed to move freely. Capital is supposed to move freely. Labor is supposed to move freely. Services are supposed to be enjoyed freely. There shouldn't be any barriers, non-tariff barriers. Okay? There should be interconnectivity of the whole continent. That was done in 2021. It was just slightly delayed by COVID. 2021, it was done. So now we have a bigger market. We have the biggest market in the world. AFCFTA is the biggest market in the whole world. You hear? You brains, you guys, you have the biggest market in the entire world. Grab it! Take advantage of it. So you have no more excuse that you do not have the most beautiful bride. You have got the African Continental Free Trade Area of so many billions. The benefits are just immense. The sky is not on the limit. The limit is heaven. Don't begrudge the European Union or the BRICS or others. You are doing better. You are doing better with FCFT if you can only combine your brains, your will, your efforts, your thinking. You increase, expand production. You interconnect your continent. You improve the airways. You connect with the airways, IT, the digital economy. The financial markets are broadened and deepened and developed. The payment system is efficient. Okay? You have got a lot. You add value to what you produce. You industrialize. 3 pillars. 1 pillar, market integration. The second pillar, industrialization. You understand? The third pillar, infrastructure development. So the whole continent is integrated. You have AFCFT as the vehicle. Grab it. Make use of it. Don't simply talk sweet words, big sweet words. Leave it, practice it, and apply the FCFTA. And be better than the rest of the world. Pull yourselves out of poverty. Okay? We have got a chance. Don't misuse it. Now, this is what we planned at the African Central Bank. We planned that there will be a precursor, a front runner of the African Central Bank, and that is called the African Monetary Institute, AMI. Just like in the EAC, we have got the East African Monetary Institute, we want the East African Monetary Institute to be set up. Parliaments of the EAC partner states have approved it, and ratified it. We are only waiting for action. What's remaining is only action. You say we go, I can speak words, a harvest of words, God is harvest of words with no action. Now what we want is only action. Public service delivery, action. Okay? Implementation, efficient and effective implementation. Not mudomo. So, this is what we set up to do. 2013, we were supposed to have an African Motor Institute up and running. But can you imagine that with all the mineral resources in Africa, with all our organic food, with those rare earth minerals, rare earth, right from North Africa down South Africa, through DRC and South African Republic, that western part is just all minerals. The most valuable minerals that do not help us, but help Europe and the US and the industrial world and the defense industries. We are just sitting on welfare, which is not helping us, and we are poor. A continent so rich in resources, but with people who are poor. They do not have enough budgets to finance the African Central Bank or its precursor, the African Monetary Institute yet. Shame on us. The eastern part of the whole continent, that's the western part. The eastern part of the whole continent is just is food security rich. The organic food can feed the whole world. We do not have to cry over Ukraine-Russian war. We have organic food here. We can expand production, organic food production, and export to the whole world. Eastern part, food production, plus it's also oil rich. Then the western part, mineral rich. The rare minerals that now drive the industries and defense systems of the Western world. Yet we are poor. What went wrong? You ask yourself that question. What are the clear, immense benefits of being in an economic and monetary union, like the ASC monetary union, or like the African monetary union? One is that it entrenches macroeconomic stability. It entrenches macroeconomic and financial and price stability. That they get anchored, and they get anchored through fiscal and monetary policy discipline. We are able to contain the excesses or the indiscipline in the fiscal policy and the monetary policy by entering a monetary union. Because in the monetary union, that discipline is entrenched. Inflation in single-digit levels is entrenched. Fiscal discipline is entrenched, and monetary policy slippages are not there, they are minimized. So we have entrenched price stability, prudent macroeconomic policies, coherent ones, consistent ones, not undermined by fiscal policy and monetary policy slippages. Okay? That's the biggest thing. Of course, the member states will have surrendered. The member states, each country will surrender some sovereignty. The ASC Central Bank, for instance. Okay? That's a supranational body for the ASC. So we shall have an ASC supranational body. We shall also have an African Central Bank as a supranational institution where inflation is anchored, where macroeconomic stability is anchored by prudent monetary and fiscal policies. We shall have one exchange rate policy. We shall have one single currency. Okay? The second objective, the second benefit, which is immense, you remember what we call transaction cost. If you move from Uganda with your shillings, with your shillings to Kenya, across Busia border or Malawi, of course you change your shillings to some Kenya shillings, and you suffer what you call, you suffer some currency conversion. There will be currency conversion, but you suffer some foreign exchange loss when you're converting from shillings, Uganda shillings, to Kenya shillings, because we still have different currencies. Okay? Now, when you move from Kenya to Tanzania through Namanga, the border post, then you have to change your Kenya shillings into Tanzania shillings. And if you are still holding your Uganda shillings, you also change them at Namanga, and you also suffer another foreign exchange loss, the exchange rate risk, because the exchange rates keep on fluctuating, and again you are moving from one currency to another. People are making a markup, they are making a markup on your currency as you convert. It's a business. Now, in a single currency, in a single currency zone, in a monetary zone of monetary stability and price stability, where you have got a single currency, there are no such costs. There is no exchange rate loss. There is no exchange loss. You'll be holding the South African currency, whether you're in Uganda or in Kenya or in Tanzania, to be the same currency, or in Burundi, or in Rwanda, or in DRC, or in South Sudan. You'll be holding one currency. You'll be transacting in one currency. There will be no exchange rate loss as a result of exchange rate fluctuation. You'll be having a common exchange rate policy, okay, and a single currency. The third factor, and of course, a single currency therefore becomes a language of trade and commerce. You don't need dollars to trade in the DRC of South Sudan. No, you'll be having your common currency. You don't need to have dollars. No. Or the mighty dollar. No. Or the mighty pound. No. Your ESC currency, whatever name it is going to be called, you'll be trading with it in the entire region. So the single currency becomes the language of trade and commerce, of investments, of savings. You'll be home and dry. Okay? And you'll be suffering no transaction costs as moved from one border to another. The third benefit I've also talked about, the exchange rate volatility will not be there. Okay? The other one will be, as you move from one state to one country to another, you can easily compare prices. Okay? You can easily compare prices. Okay? You can easily compare prices between Uganda and Kenya and Tanzania. You have the common currency. You can easily compare prices. It facilitates the comparison of prices. The other one is, of course, what we call political solidarity. The ESC or Africa moves as one voice, as one bloc. You have more bargaining power. Your voice is increased. Your share of global trade under AFCFT is increased. Intra-Africa trade is increased. Investment flows are increased. Savings, intra-Africa savings are increased. And your voice globally is increased. So you have become a power equivalent to reckon with. They don't ignore your voice. They don't ignore you. After all, your share of global trade has also increased. Both the voice and your share globally has. You are a market to reckon with. I told you the FCFTA is the biggest market in the entire world. Grab it and make use of it. Now, of course, we have got a bigger market for your goods and services. You can export your goods to the entire ESC and the entire Africa, the entire COMESA, the entire COMESA ESC SADC, the entire OCOWAS, all those regs, and the entire African continent. So you have got a huge market. You don't have to suffer with your milk here, with your maize here, with your eggs here. You don't have to be stuck with them. You can produce, and you have got a ready market waiting for you. That's the beauty of a wider market of regional economic and monetary integration. And of course, that has got to be helped by infrastructure and internet and ICT connectivity. The payments, the superhighway, the payment system. The continent can only be digitally interconnected thanks to the ICT developments and innovations, thanks to all the innovations, financial markets deepening and broadening. Thanks for, but that risk-taking must be balanced with responsible, should be responsible risk-taking. It has got to be regulated. It has got to be responsible risk-taking. Okay? There must be a body to regulate, to diversify, to help you diversify risk some insurance, Pan-African Insurance Agency, okay, to diversify risk, to share risk, okay, and we have them. We have those Pan-African institutions, other than the Pan-African financial institutions of the African Central Bank, the African Monetary Fund, and the African Investment Bank. We have the African Development Bank, okay, you know about it. We have the African Exim Bank, okay, we have it. We have the insurance, the ZEPRI, the insurance, the bigger insurance companies, we have them. And everywhere, we have them. Make use of them. Let the Africa going to be integrated, be interconnected. So, economic and monetary union has got to be supported by infrastructure integration, by industrialization, okay, by market integration. You cannot have a single currency. A single currency is only useful if you have goods to trade with. If there are goods that have to be traded. If commerce and investment and trade is booming, if cross-border trade is booming, if the economies are monetized fully, not in subsistence, if people have some cash, not only in their pockets but in their banks, when household incomes have been boosted, how do you move from third world to first world? That's another issue that I'll talk about later on. But Lee Kuan Yew, which my good geoscientist Dave Sapumza talked about, and whom I love talking about when I inclusive policy dialogue, had the secret formula. The secret formula was this: MPH. M for meritocracy. That was upholding meritocracy. Choosing brains, not idiots. Okay? Not psychopaths. Choosing brains who can deliver. Choosing people on merits. Meritocracy versus mediocrity. Okay? P, pragmatism, realism. Okay? Practical. Being practical. Pragmatism. Rather than theorizing in your universities. Okay? Don't theorize, be practical. Apply yourself. Okay? H for honesty. Honesty. That means you are transparent, you are accountable, you don't involve yourself in these stupid scandals. Okay? MPH is the secret formula. Meritocracy, pragmatism, and honesty. And those are signs of good governance, whether it's public governance or whether it's corporate governance. Those are signs, that's the cornerstone of success. Let me talk about the major cost. The major cost, and which is felt by most heads of state, some heads of state rather, because our president, Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, is at the forefront of EAC, COMESA, and African integration. So he doesn't fear this cost of a loss of sovereignty. There are some who fear the loss of sovereignty to an unelected body, a supranational institution like the African Central Bank or the EAC Central Bank, okay, or the EAC Secretariat, okay, or the EAC Legislative Assembly, YALA. There are those who fear such bodies, that those bodies are not elected. But there are those who are pragmatic, honest, and with a high sense of meritocracy, and who are far-sighted, who see the vision of Africa as that one of Dr. Kwame Nkrumah Osagejafo, as the late Julius Kabarage Nyerere. Those who see Africa confidently and surely on the global scene rather than being a spectator. Those who want to see Africa rise and shine, a confident Africa on the rise. Those who want us to transit from poverty or the peasantry economies, banana economies, to middle income status, and ultimately the first world like Lee Kuan Yew did for Singapore. He did it. A small, tiny Indian Ocean island, Singapore, rather in the Pacific, Singapore did it. Mauritius in the Indian Ocean, a tiny dot in the Indian Ocean, Mauritius has done it. We can do it. Don't forget that Uganda has ever experienced high buoyant GDP growth rates of even 9.8%. Remember under Dr. Ezra Suruma, when he was the Minister of Finance, we recorded 98% real GDP growth. We have never achieved that. It can be done. So when the president says he wants double-digit real GDP economic growth rates, he means it. If you have reached 90.8, literally 90.8, you are about there, isn't it? So just a small push. A small push, we shall be there. Forget about the challenges that were faced. Challenges are there. They are upward challenges, but they are not insurmountable. These non-tariff barriers are not insurmountable. All we need is first-class goodwill. You don't have to cross borders of EAC partner states. No, you don't have to. We don't have to go that direction. We don't have to fight. We don't have to hate each other. We can live and enjoy all the fruits that God has given us in Africa. I told you about the western part of Africa and the eastern part of Africa is all rich, yet the people are languishing in poverty. We must put an end to that. Now, so what are they fearing? Loss of sovereignty over multi-national policy. That's what they're fearing. But sovereignty is shared. I thought it's shared. You lose part of it, and after all, you set up a strong Pan-African financial institution. You set up a strong and sound central bank for the EAC, for Africa. That's the institution that you have set up. You model it. You don't interfere with its policies, with its mandate, politically. You leave it to perform its work. You leave it to do its work transparently. Let it account to you. Being independent as a central bank does not mean that you are not accountable to government. No. You account to government, but you take your decisions independently based on your thorough analysis, empirical analysis that is policy-oriented. You have the instruments to use. The goals are set up by government, but the instruments to achieve those goals, like that, the goal of price stability, you have the instruments for that. And nobody should twist you to achieve that goal of price stability. Okay? But the ministries, the MDAs, the ministries, departments, and agencies should also do their work. Because fiscal policy is the Ministry of Finance. The structural policies are with the other MDAs. So if they don't do their work, that makes the work of monetary policy difficult. If the supply side is bad, if the supply side is distorted, if it has impediments, if it has to go to a lot of structural rigidities, okay, that means even monetary policy and fiscal policy are constrained. Okay, if external debt sustainability is endangered, if as you know very well, about a third of our revenue goes into servicing external debt and domestic debt, you know there is a problem. It can't be business as usual. You have got to engineer the thinking and the mindset. Okay? Okay? And work as a team, not in silos. Work as a team. You have got only one Uganda, you have got only one mother Uganda, you have only one mother EAC, you have only one mother Africa. It is you to pull yourselves out of your poverty. No Muzungu will do it for you. It doesn't owe you a living. Okay? The BRICS, you have heard about the BRICS. Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. They are now a formidable bloc. The EU is a historical formidable bloc. USA and Mexico and Canada and another bloc. So please, now that you have got the African Union Commission, you have got the African Unity, you have got the African Continental Free Trade Area, and now that we are moving to the African Monetary Union, okay, and there is a Monetary Union, please, let's live the dream of the late Osajefo, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, Dr. Mwalimu Julius Kambarage Nyerere. Let's also sing our own song, not the song of the Mzungu. There are several conditions which I will not elaborate, but I just simply list them. There are several preconditions, or what we call the optimum currency area criteria. An optimum currency area is a single currency zone. It's a single currency zone with monetary and price stability. An optimum currency area is a single currency zone with the characteristics of monetary stability, price stability, and financial stability. Now, to qualify as an optimum currency area, you must meet the following things, the following conditions or prerequisites. One, you must trade, there must be real trade integration. There must be financial market integration, financial system integration. That means the financial sector, the payment system, okay, the entire financial system, the financial sector, the commercial banks, the non-bank financial institutions, the circles, okay, the digital financial services, all these financial innovations, okay, the payment and settlement systems, the super highways, not the tarmac roads to the Entebbe, Kampala Entebbe, no, the super paved highway. Where I'm seated here, and I simply, if I'm trading with somebody from Japan, I just simply have to walk to my commercial bank, and under the commercial regional payment system called REPS, I can deal with the commercial bank with my commercial bank here, and as an exporter, and there's an importer on the other side of Japan or the other way around, and we are connected through that super highway, the REPS, the regional payment settlement system, for instance. In the case of Southern Africa, they call it the CIRES, and in the case of the East African community, they call it the EPS, the East African payment system. Okay? And West Africans also have another payment system, but we are harmonizing all those payment systems and interconnecting the whole continent. The third one is what we call commodity diversification. We don't produce the same things. We should be adding value to what we produce and diversify the economy. Economic diversification, commodity diversification, goods market integration, financial market integration, and ensure macroeconomic convergence. We cannot go into a monetary union when we are so different in terms of economic parameters: inflation, fiscal deficit, GDP ratios, debt to GDP ratios, real GDP growth ratios, wage discrepancies, wage flexibilities. All those we should go into a monetary union when we have narrowed the differences among ourselves economically. Then we can converge in terms of macroeconomic convergence and in terms of financial market integration. Then we have what the openness of the economy. We should not be a closed economy. We should be open. We should be opening up. We should open up more. And Uganda has opened up a long time ago. 1993, we opened up our current account. 1997, we opened our capital account. So for us, we have been there, and other countries are just picking a leaf from us. So in terms of openness, we are there. But of course, as we expand the market, as we deepen regional integration, we also increase our openness to trade. Okay? Okay? We can ensure that there is buoyant investment flows, buoyant trade, buoyant investment flows, buoyant saving flows. Okay? We do not hold them, do not have those other utilities. Let them flow, let them be mobile. Let there be free mobility of all those factors of production. Of course, there are still challenges. Political will is needed. Political will is needed. We don't have to close our borders within a country, within a partner state. There's no need. Once there is political will. Fiscal discipline, I've already talked about fiscal discipline. There are so many other things that I can talk about, but let me go to infrastructure development. Infrastructure development. Can you imagine in 1997, the late Governor Charles Chikonyogo, the Governor of Bank of Uganda, was going to meet his colleague, Central Bank governors, in Libreville, Brazzaville, under the auspices of the IMF working group, the IMF and World Bank working group, and the Association of African Central Banks. And of course, as his executive director of research and policy and economic advisor, I had to go ahead of him to prepare for him. Okay? So for me, I made the stupid mistake of doing this Kamu travel from Entebbe to Nairobi, from Nairobi to Cairo, from Accra, from Cairo to Brussels, from Brussels back to Africa, back to Abidjan. Abidjan could not. I had spent a stupid night there at the airport. I didn't even have a visa. African visa problem. We are one continent, but we need visas to move everywhere. From Abidjan to another country. By the time I reached Libreville, Governor Konyugo had already landed in Libreville. That to move from Africa to Africa, you are going to go to Europe first. You see? Then you do the Kamu travel until you find a destination. Governor Konyugo flew from Entebbe to Brussels, which is in Frankfurt, Belgium. Then from Brussels took Sabena straight to Gabon, which is also Frankfurt. And me, I had spent 2 days doing the Kamu travel. That's the stupidity of interconnectivity and poor infrastructure development in Africa. So if I'm a farmer, I'm producing my tomatoes, and I'm producing my tomatoes, and there's no industrialization in Africa. That means I'm going to export my tomatoes to Europe. What is this French company? Hayes. Another this American company. Is it Hayes? The tomato manufacturer, the tomato ketchup manufacturer. Hayes, eh? So my tomatoes go to Hayes. Hayes exported the tomato ketchup here expensively. My tomatoes have got rotten. They are not even accepted in Europe because they get it. By the time they reach Europe, they are rotten. But Africa has also not been stupid. Africa has got a program called PIDA, Program for Infrastructure Development in Africa. Okay, PIDA. Okay, PIDA has helped connect us. Connect Africa. It has worked hard to connect Africa. The AU has worked hard to connect Africa. There's what they call the Umasukro Declaration. The Umasukro Declaration has liberalized the airways, but they have got to harmonize the airways. Okay? But with my tomatoes in Uganda, and I cannot get them to West Africa, I cannot get them to the DRC in time, or South Sudan in time, how shall I put myself out of poverty? Africa must be integrated in terms of infrastructure for anything to make sense. Whether it's single currency only makes sense when you are interconnected so that there can be trade and investment flows. In the single currency is only a language of trade and commerce. If you have no significant flows of trade and investments, what do you need the currency for? So boost production, boost productivity, stimulate and boost your exports, high value. And my popular strategy for exports, regional, strategic, high value, niche market, blended, commodity value chain linked, blended, branded, and rebranded, competitive, diversified export sector. That's what we need. That's the type of policy we need in Africa to make AFCFTA useful to us, to make economic and monetary union useful to us. I'll not go through these other things. Fiscal and political integration. Without fiscal and monetary discipline, you cannot go anywhere. You are doomed. Long-term planning or rational expectations, rational decision making is based on the fact that you have totally dismantled, that you have provided a conducive environment, macroeconomic environment for other things to happen in the real economy. It shapes business and investment expectations. It elongates the savings investment horizon. So fiscal discipline, when in 1988 and 1986 the president of Uganda, General Yoweri Kaguta Museveni came to power, there's a lot of fiscal discipline, and that's what was fueling inflation. Inflation was in the 3-digit levels. This country had 3-digit inflation, 3-digit levels, to 88% in that region. Then the president put down his foot and said, inflation is indiscipline. I could even add, inflation is fiscal indiscipline. Inflation is also structural and monetary, but largely at that time it was fiscal indiscipline, fiscal excesses, government excesses. Money printing was the order of the day. So he put down his foot, said inflation is discipline. If this means ministries, departments and agencies closing, they'll close. But we rein in this inflation monster. Lo and behold, in 1992, 1993, 1987, there was a currency reform. We knocked off 2 laws. We clamped a 30% conversion tax. And during that time, of course, I was a young officer, so I was in Mwende doing the currency conversion as part of the central bank exercise to deal with the old currency. Okay? Okay? You remember that? Most of you were not. Who was born? Who was born among you? Him was born. He was born. But you were still able to go. Even me, I was just a young officer. I did the central bank for only 4 years. 4 years. No, 87 was the currency reform. Okay? So we have had some sanity since then. But the sanity did not come so easily until 92, 93 when we embarked on an economic recovery program. Okay? But even then, although growth was growing, the economy was growing buoyantly, it was jobless growth. This was jobless growth. Can you imagine a real economy is growing, everybody is singing the song, but the jobs are not there. It was jobless growth. So that's why the government embarked on what they call the Poverty Eradication Action Program. By the way, even before that one, I was already part and parcel of that structural reform. In 1997-98, I was the director of Bank of Uganda Research Department. And we conducted a poverty survey throughout the whole of Uganda. You have seen my publication with Professor Peter Smith, Musinguzi P. and Smith Peter, 1998. One 1997 and then 1998. Entitled Structural Adjustment and Poverty, a study of rural Uganda. And that appears, you can actually Google it. It is in the Savings and Development Journal. You can Google it. Musinguzi P. and Smith Peter of Southampton. It is a discussion paper in economics and econometrics. Very rich, very empirical, evidence-based. We don't do theorizing of at university. We don't do theorizing, whereas we applied econometricians. We do macroeconomic modeling, applied empirical models, simulate them, policy simulations. We forecast ahead. Okay? The problem with Africa is that they suffer from short-termism. We don't have a long-term view of development. Okay? Please, assure yourselves of that disease of short-termism. Have a long-term mindset. Even at the household level, even at the individual level, have a long-term mindset. Not a mere. Of course, a mere to alleviate poverty, but long-term, think long-term. That's why PDM becomes handy. PDM is a step in the right direction, as you know very well. It can be refined further. And on our inclusive policy dialogue platform, we have made recommendations on how to refine it further. And they have heeded those recommendations, they have refined it. Every day it is being refined. Those refinements are very important so that PDM does not fail. PDM must not fail. If it fails, then everything else that we are going to formulate after and design after will be looked at with question marks, like Tandikwa, like Bona Bagagawale. Like what? No, that one is a bit different. Operational integration is delivering, and I'll show you one time, that it delivers. Because the households under subsistence, Chonka, you can see where I've come from. What we are waiting for is to see the efficient and effective implementation and operationalization of the African Monetary Institute with an adequate budget to fulfill its mandate fully, not partially, not in a raw form, to do its mandate and satisfy it fully. Number 3, that we ensure that the African Continental Free Trade Area works efficiently and cost effectively, that it enhances intra-African trade, that it raises our voice and the share of African trade within of global trade, and that it deepens, broadens, and develops our financial systems and sustains our macroeconomic convergence. Working together with the African Central Bank, the African Investment Bank, the African Monetary Fund, that are headquartered respectively in Abuja, SCB, Yaoundé for AMF, and Tripoli for the AIB, the African Investment Bank. You hear? Those are the 3 Pan-African financial institutions that were approved by the AU Heads of Summit in what they call the AU Constitutive Act of 19. The Constitutive Act, that's the one that ushers in these 3 Pan-African financial institutions. The African Central Bank, an adequate budget to finance the African Monetary Institute that is preparing the way for the launching of the African Central Bank, the African single currency. Same thing that is happening even within the East African community, not anywhere yet in sight. And with only 1 year to go, only God can tell where we shall be.